Right, this is the Africa Twin CRF1100. I'm going to do an oil change on it with no mucking around. Let's get outside and get on with it. Okay, first job, you need a H5 Allen key. There are 2 bolts underneath the bash plate on this side. There is one on the other side, and on the rear here there's a rubber grommet. You're going to drop the bash plate down and slide it off the rear. So 2 underneath, 1 on the side. Let's go. So there's a rubber grommet on the back of this one, and you'll see that just slides over this piece at the back. Rubber grommet slides over this one, so no bolt on that side. Yeah. Next step, you need to warm up the bike so that you get the oil nice and hot and it's going to run out freely. Start the bike, let it run for 5 minutes, turn it off. Okay, so now the engine oil is nice and warm, we're going to remove the engine filler cap. This is going to enable the oil to flow out the bottom much easier, and do the same with the dipstick. You don't need to take it out completely, just make sure the air can get through. Remember that the engine is hot now, as is your engine oil. So we have that loose. So next stop, we need to undo the sump plugs. Now there are 2 on the Africa Twin. I'll show you where those are now. Okay, so the Africa Twin has 2 sump plugs. We have one here, and then one a little further here. These are a 12mm socket to undo. And remember, on the back of the sump plugs, there are crush washers. If you plan to reuse the ones that you have, you'll need to make sure you grab those and don't drop it inside the oil. Okay, so now's the tricky part, so I'm going to remove this front sump plug first. So loosen that one up. Remember, the oil is going to start coming out, so make sure you got your oil pan underneath, and try to catch the sump plug and the crush washer on the back of it. Okay, going for the second sump plug now. Remember to move your pan over, but if you've got a centre stand, it may be in the way a little bit, so we might have a bit of spillage here. Right, good. So we have the engine oil drained from the bottom. Next up, we're going to remove the filter, and you're going to need a oil filter removal tool such as this. If you haven't got one of these and you're really brutal, you can hammer a screwdriver through the old filter and twist it off, but I don't recommend that, obviously. So get your tool nice and tight on the filter. Make sure that you've still got your pan underneath, because you don't want to make a mess all over the floor. High flow 204. Okay, so what I'd recommend is take your new filter out of the box and take the plastic off the end, and have this box ready to catch the old filter, because it's still going to contain some oil. So now you've loosened it, you should be able to undo it by hand. So dump out all the old oil and then put that back in the box so you don't make a mess. Okay, so these filters already come pre-lubricated, so we don't need to do that. But if your filter isn't lubricated around here on this oil rubber gasket on the O-ring, then just dip your finger in your new oil and run it round, just so that you create a nice seal. So go ahead and screw this one on. You definitely do not want to over tighten this. There is a correct torque spec for it, but as tight as you can go with your hand is tight enough. Good. So we're going to put these sump plugs back in. Make sure that you have this washer here. It's really important that you have that crushed gasket. You can reuse them once or twice, but you should replace it. The manual will tell you to replace it every time. Take care not to cross thread these. It's an expensive mistake. Just screw them in hand tight. They should go in nice and freely, no resistance. And the second one, make sure you got the washer on your second one. Don't want to lose that. So the torque specs on these sump bolts is 30 Newton meters of torque. I would recommend doing that if you have a torque wrench. If you don't, on your head be it, don't over tighten it. So next up we're going to refill it, so just screw your dipstick back in. Put your oil filler cap out, get your funnel and your oil. So I'm going to be using a Motul oil 5100, 10W30 most importantly, and you need 4.1 litres. So I've got the 4 litre jug and I've got another spare one here, and that'll do you for topping up later on. Right, great, so we've got 4 litres in there so far. I'm going to start the bike, I'm going to run the bike, and then I'm going to take a measurement with the oil dipstick, and then I'll top up as necessary. But what I would advise you to do is to keep the empty oil can, cut this plastic off the top, and then use the funnel and pull your old oil into here, and then you've got a good way of disposing of it, and obviously get rid of that sensibly. Don't rev the bike up because there's no oil around the engine, so just start it and let it run gently.